In this video, let's discuss about the teaching of poetry. Poetry has tremendous appeal for children, and it is the best way of exciting their love of the language. It lays the foundation for the appreciation of the beauty of language. It educates their emotions and enhances their power of imagination. The rhythm of poetry helps the students to acquire natural speech rhythm. According to Professor S. Subramaniam, poetry leads all-round development of the whole personality of the pupils, particularly the emotional, imaginative, intellectual, aesthetic, and intuitive sides. Now let's discuss the major aims of teaching poetry. Poetry is taught for sheer pleasure and enjoyment. It further lays the foundation for an adequate appreciation of English poetry. Therefore, the aims of teaching of poetry should be different for different levels. Here the general aims of teaching English poetry are as follows. At primary level, it enables the students to recite the poem with proper rhythm and intonation, and further it enables the students to enjoy the recitation of the poem. Teaching poetry involves a range of procedures aimed at helping students appreciate, analyze, and create poetry. Here's a general process. Firstly, introduction to poetry. Teaching of a poem should begin with a beautiful introduction about the poem and its author, and this will arouse the interest of the students and create the appropriate environment for teaching the poem. Here, introduction of the poem can be done in different ways. The teacher can discuss a parallel poem that describes the similar theme, or by giving a brief summary of the poem pertaining to the background and general theme of the poem and then asking few questions on it, or by giving a life sketch, poetic style, and characteristics of the poet. Secondly, the statement of aim. Psychologically, the learner should have a clear-cut objective before him, so that he can strive to achieve that. Therefore, the teacher should state the aim. After asking the introductory questions, the teacher must declare his topic that he intends to teach. He must also ask students to open their book at the appropriate page. The third step is the model reading by the teacher. In this stage, the teacher should read out the poetic lines loudly before the students. At the time of reading, he should be very much careful about the pronunciation of words and intonation. Before doing model reading, he should give instructions to students regarding postures, opening of the book, and demand the attention of students. The fourth step is loud reading by the pupils. After finishing his loud reading, the teacher asks some students to read out the poetic lines loudly one by one. This loud reading is very much helpful to the students for clear pronunciation. It also improves the tone, rhythm, and fluency. Each student should read a few lines. The teacher should have the patience to listen his pupils reading and to make sure they are pronouncing correctly. In this regard, the following points must be given special consideration. They are: the errors of pronunciation must be corrected at the end of the reading. Then students should be asked to keep the book 1 foot away from the eyes. Further, all the students should sit or stand in proper postures. Then the fifth step is exposition of difficult words or structures. The main purpose of the poem is to develop the speech and writing habit of the students. Here the exposition of words or structures should be made in such a way that the students are able to understand the ideas inherent in the poem. So the teacher at first select the new words and structures from the poem and expose their meaning one after the other. To give clear explanation to students, he may use object, model, and picture. Sometimes through action, he may explain the meaning. But when it becomes very difficult to explain the new words and phrases by the above method, the teacher can make the meaning clear by explaining in the pupil's mother tongue. The sixth step is silent reading by the pupils. After the exposition of new words and structures, the teacher should ask the students to read the poem silently. Such type of reading is helpful for rapid reading, learning of new words, and the quick grasp of meaning. The seventh step is comprehension or appreciation. After several readings of the poem, the teacher puts some questions to test the comprehension of the theme of the poem. These questions should be simple and short. Also, appreciation questions are asked on the appreciation of beauty of language, thought, emotions, and images of the poem. Further, the students may be asked to pick out the rhyming words or to complete the lines or even to explain the central idea of the poem. To conclude, teaching poetry is a multifaceted process that combines appreciation, analysis, and creativity. By guiding students through reading, interpreting, and analyzing poetic elements, and even encouraging them to write their own poetry, it equips the students with the skills to both appreciate the richness of poetic expression and to use it as a means of personal and creative exploration.